Hi everyone, how are you doing? Really excitingly this week, I have hit that YouTuber milestone of reaching 10,000 subscribers, which is amazing. So I just want to say thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and listening to me chat on and on about books and discussing books with me in the comments below. It's been really lovely getting to know so many of you over the past few years of making videos. And so I want to do that YouTuber thing. It seems to be the standard thing that when you reach 10,000 subscribers, you do a Q&A video. So I want to announce that I'm going to make a Q&A video. So if there's anything that you want to ask me or anything that you've been wondering about either my reading life or my personal life, put them in the comments, put those questions in the comments below, and hopefully I'll get to them when making this Q&A video. But also, if there are any particular videos that you would like me to make in the future, if there's any content I've made previously that you've really enjoyed and you'd like me to make similar videos, let me know in the comments below any suggestions you have. That'd be really helpful. And obviously this is all just for fun. I do this for fun, and so I make videos talking about what I'm most interested in. But obviously I hope that people will enjoy that and want to watch it as well. So it's lovely to get feedback every once in a while of suggestions of videos that people would like to see me make. So let me know in the comments below. But also, I just want to make a video today sort of doing a general introduction and talking about who I am, because something I've noticed being on YouTube and watching particular YouTubers over a while, like I'll watch a number of their videos and feel like I get a sense of who they are, but I don't know who they, like where they come from or general things about them. So I just want to sort of give a general introduction if you're recent to my channel or if you've watched my videos over time. I mean, obviously I talk about my personal life every once in a while and things about my reading tastes and all of that over videos, but it's good to, yeah, just get a general introduction to who somebody is. So again, hello, I'm Eric. I use my full name on my channel and on my blog and all of that, which is Eric Carl Anderson. And I use my middle name just because Eric and Anderson are both such common and frankly quite dull names. So I thought I would put my middle name in there as well. And it's Eric with a C and Carl with a K. You know, it's like Liza with a Z, not Liza with an S. You know, how that whole song goes, you know, so blame Papa. But a lot of people confuse that when they write me. Even people I've known quite a while will sometimes write Eric with a K when writing me, and it's an easy mistake to make, but yes, Eric with a C, Carl with a K. And so yeah, I've run this YouTube channel for a little over 3 years now, and I've run a book blog for over 6 years, and so reading's always just been a big part of my life. I've always been a massive reader, and I just decided to go online several years ago when I started my blog because I thought it'd be interesting to try to find other readers and have discussions about the books I'm reading. You know, I really craved to discuss all of these great things that I was reading, and I never planned for it to become such a big part of my life, but it really becomes almost a daily thing now that I'm, if I'm not making a video or writing a blog post, that I'll be interacting with other people's blogs and YouTube channels about books, and so chatting with people about books on social media all the time. And you know, I can't really imagine my life without it now. But as a brief outline about my life, I am American. I was born in the state of Maine and was raised there, and but I almost 20 years ago I moved to the United Kingdom, and I've lived in London ever since then, so basically my whole adult life. So I'm almost completely half American and half British at this point. In terms of being a reader, I mainly read contemporary literary fiction, and I follow a lot of book prizes like the Booker Prize and the Women's Prize for Fiction, and every year my friend Anna James and I make videos talking about the books listed for that year's Women's Prize. I like a lot of historical fiction, and I love family sagas, and I really like fiction that does inventive things with the form of the book. And but I also really enjoy discovering new voices and debut authors. My favorite writer is Joyce Carol Oates, and if you've watched my videos before, you've probably heard me talking about her. I probably talk about her too much, but yeah, is my absolute favorite writer. And my favorite novel is The Waves by Virginia Woolf, and I've made videos talking about both Joyce Carol Oates and Virginia Woolf before, so I'll put those links in the description below if you haven't seen them and want to hear me talking about the authors and the books that I'm most passionate about. I feel like I was a big book collector before I was even a big reader, and I don't know if anybody else has had this thing, but ever since I was young and was at school, and there was this program where you could buy books through the school at like a discounted rate, and I found this series of books that had really beautiful cover and beautiful spines, and I just love how they looked on my shelf. And I didn't necessarily even like read all that many of them, but I just loved having them on my shelf and looking at them like that. And you know, I still feel that to this day, that I'll just look up at my bookshelves and it makes me so happy just seeing them and looking at them. And you know, I feel like you're a real reader if it just makes you happy seeing a big bookshelf filled with books. And I'm lucky enough to have a really wonderful library in my house now, and I made a whole video giving a library tour, and I'll put a link to that below if you haven't seen that and want to watch that as well. But yeah, I mean, even today when I go on holiday with my partner, I'll bring a stack of books with me, and the very first thing I'll do once we get to our hotel room is I'll put that stack of books up on a shelf or by the bedside, just so they're there so I can see them. And because I'm on holiday and, you know, busy doing other things, I don't even get a chance to read all that much, but I just like having them there. It just makes me happy seeing them, you know? I think it must be a similar thing to people who are explorers or who like traveling a lot, and the same sense that they get when looking at a map, because just looking at a bookshelf, I just sort of love imagining all the stories and adventures and ideas that are contained in all those books, and it just, I just love the idea of thinking about the potentiality of that whole experience. A funny story about my very first day of school, and I can't obviously verify if this is actually true because I can't remember it, but a story that my father likes to tell is that on my very first day of school, I went and was very excited and happy, but when I got home at the end of the day, I was in floods of tears and just crying and really upset. And so my parents asked me what was wrong, and I said, they didn't teach me how to read yet. And I thought that on the very first day of school, I was going to be taught how to read, and that would be it. And then suddenly, you know, I would be reading Dickens and Dostoevsky, but it didn't work out that way. So yeah, obviously, I don't know if that's actually true, but it makes a funny story, and it's a sort of indication that, you know, I was always meant to be a big reader. And you know, it's sort of funny as you get older and you look back on your earlier life and you can sort of see patterns and personality traits that were sort of always there, but have really come to the forefront as you've become an adult. So yeah, as a child, I remember getting books in my Easter basket, you know, alongside a lot of candy and Peeps, which are my absolute favorite candy ever. Like Peeps are amazing, the marshmallow sweet. But yeah, I would get books alongside those, and it made me so happy finding those in my Easter basket. And I remember being in high school and reading 100 Years of Solitude for the first time, and it just really opening my imagination to a whole new world. And then I remember reading George Orwell when writing The T in Boston, which is the public transportation system in Boston. I went to college in Boston for a while, and I remember reading the books of George Orwell on there, like Keep the Aspidistra Flying and Burmese Days, and just wishing I had somebody to talk about these books I was reading. And I remember being at university and reading Joyce Carol Oates for the first time, reading her novel Mysteries of Winterthurn, and that novel just completely blew my mind about the possibilities of the novel as a form, what it could do, the ideas it could tackle and wrestle with and discuss, while telling a really riveting story and indulging in this sort of crazy gothic world that she explores in this novel, and yeah, and that really set me on to Joyce Carol Oates and loving her work and the variety of her fiction. And so that's how I came to love this author so much. So that's who I am as a reader. But in my personal life, I do have a full-time job working in online marketing at a company that has nothing to do with books. And it's sort of funny, when I meet people, people sort of assume that I work in publishing or something to do with books, or that I do blogging and YouTubing full time, but I really don't. It's it's just my passion project that I sort of do on the side. And it's funny though, I mean, describing how it feels strange just describing it as a hobby, because it means so much to me, and I think for a lot of us, I feel like we're not exactly casual readers because we do so much of it, but at the same time, we're not professional reviewers or writers, although some of us are, but I think the majority of us are just really passionate readers. I guess it's probably more accurate to just say that reading is a way of life for us. And for me personally, I've always been really excited about reading new books, even before they came out. So, even before I started book blogging and reviewing books online and having interactions with publishers where they'll send me books before they come out, I would go online and I would buy books from used bookstores that had advanced copies of books, and I would read those books before they came out. And this is so geeky, but I would write to the authors directly about their books after I read them if I thought they were really great, and if there was things about their books that I wanted to talk about, I would write to these authors. So I remember writing to the writer Joan Barfoot, who's a Canadian writer, and I read a novel of hers that I loved, and I wrote her this long letter about it, and this was before the novel was even published, and she wrote me back like, wow, thank you, that's a great compliment, but how did you read this book? It's not even been published yet. And so, yeah, I think that just shows, my real passion and drive to engage with, be one of the first person to engage with books, because I think there's a real excitement in feeling like I'm reading this book for the first time. This might be an amazing new book that's read for hundreds and hundreds of years to come, but I was one of the first people to get to read it, and there's just a real excitement in that, I also often get asked if I'm a writer as well as a reader, and when I was younger, I really wanted to be a writer. I would, when I was quite young, I would write poetry, and I wrote a lot of bad poetry during my teenage years, probably like a lot of people did, but then I was really driven wanting to become a playwright, and I wrote a number of one-act plays and full-length plays, which were performed in Boston. I got involved with a number of different theater troupes in Boston, but then it sort of changed, and I wanted to be a novelist, and really driven and excited to do that. And so while I was at university, I wrote a novel called Enough, and then after university, I submitted the manuscript of this to a publisher that was doing a first book competition, and this novel won that competition, so I got some money and a publishing contract, and it was published, and I had some nice blurbs from writers like Ali Smith and Joyce Carol Oates, so it was such a massive dream come true that Joyce Carol Oates wrote a blurb for my novel. And that all happened when I was around 20 years old. And then after that, I published a number of short stories in different journals and periodicals and anthologies, and worked on a couple of novel ideas, but over time it just sort of, my real drive for it just sort of dwindled, and I became so much more interested in reading and responding to what I was reading than actually writing myself, and I don't really know where that drive went, and maybe I'll get it back someday, maybe I'll want to write more at some point, but at the moment I'm just so much happier just being a reader. Some other random things about me are that I've been with my partner for 20 years, and he's amazing. I feel so lucky to be with him, and I feel like we really balance each other out because he's really passionate about film. He works in film, and so he's introduced me to watching so many good movies, and so I watch a lot of film all of the time. But I'm not especially high-minded in my tastes in films. I really love disaster movies, so like 2012 and The Poseidon Adventure. I love camp zany classics from Hollywood, like Auntie Mame and Born Yesterday. And Born Yesterday stars the actress Judy Holliday, who's I use a clip from that film at the beginning of a lot of my videos, just because it's funny, and I really love that film. It's Judy Holliday plays the girlfriend of a mob boss, and she learns the love of reading over the course of the film. So it sort of feels appropriate for making book videos that I include this clip of somebody who learns the love of reading. And it's just a great film that I think more people should see. But my favorite actress is probably Sandy Dennis, who is most famous for playing the part of Honey in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is one of my favorite films of all time. It's so amazing. But she's also probably most famous for the film The Out of Towners, which she co-starred in with Jack Lemmon, which is an absolutely hilarious film. But she's just an incredible actress, and I feel like there are some films which are probably really hard to find now, but that are really great, like The Fox and Up the Down Staircase and Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean. Some other random things about me are that I've had a beard for over 10 years. I just like the way how it looks, and also I'm kind of too lazy to shave every day, so that's why I have this. I remember once as a child I stole ice cream from the Trump Tower in New York City, sort of accidentally. I just got served it and I wasn't sure where you paid, so I just sort of left and took it, but now I feel kind of proud of that fact. I also remember being at Disney World once when I was younger and seeing in a fountain all of these coins, and so I started scooping out all of these coins into my pockets, and this woman came up to me and said, "You're stealing people's wishes." And that just made me laugh so much, and it makes me laugh so much every time I remember it. I don't know why. When I was a teenager, I was quite technophobic. I really didn't like computers and the internet, and I just wanted to go live on a commune, and I actually went to visit the Twin Oaks community in Virginia, which is still a working, functioning community, and wanted to live there out in nature and, making tofu and milking cows all day. And I can't imagine me doing that now. So I think it's just quite funny and ironic that I've become an adult who does a job working online and makes videos for the internet and does a blog and all of this stuff. So yeah, that's quite funny. If you take me out for dim sum, I will end up just eating dumplings until I explode. I love eating dim sum so much. From RuPaul's Drag Race, probably my favorite queens are Peppermint and Chi Chi DeVayne, though obviously Alaska and Katya are amazing queens. And actually once on RuPaul's podcast, he mentioned my book blog, and so if you go to my book blog, Lonesome Reader, and the About Me section, I have an audio clip of RuPaul mentioning my book blog and talking about a book recommendation that I made for him, which was Damon Galgut's Arctic Summer, which is a wonderful novel. My favorite animal is a wombat. I love watching geeky outer space films, and my favorite planet is Neptune. My favorite bookstore is Gaze the Word Bookshop in London. I love the idea of going on cruises, on a really long cruise, but I would probably hate the actual experience of doing it. I hope to one day die in Venice, but I love the idea of retiring in a cabin with an enormous library. That's sort of my absolute dream. So those are some random things about me and a brief overview of my life. But like I said, if you have any other specific questions about my reading or about me, let me know in the comments below, and I'll answer them hopefully in a follow-up Q&A video. But thank you for watching and subscribing and listening to me blab on and on about books. It's really wonderful discussing books with all of you and getting reading suggestions from all of you. I've discovered so many great books through BookTube, so it's just been a wonderful experience. So thank you again, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye, everyone.